There was something unsettling about how ordinary that Sunday was. And I think that sentence alone, we can all relate to that. If we've had, traumatic or dramatic things happen in our life, 9 times out of 10, we think back and you think, I just got up that morning. And I always think about 9/11. I
Mhm.
always think like we all got up that day. We were going about our regular day to day. And this was the same type of thing. It was just an ordinary Sunday. It was the kind of summer day where there was a soft breeze moving through the curtains, and it moved into a night that reminds you why people move to quiet towns like Cheshire, Connecticut. It was July 22nd, 2007. And so this family is called the Petit family,
Okay.
but it is because I am French Canadian, it is actually spelled petit.
I'm so glad you covered this and not me because you know what I would have said. The Petit family.
Petit. I know. And when I first started researching this, I was like, oh, the Petit family. No, it's Petit. So we're going to say Petit because that's their last name. They had spent the kind of day doing simple things, wholesome things that make up a good life. We'll start with Dr. William Petit. He was billed to his friends, had gone golfing earlier in the afternoon. And while he was golfing, his wife, Jennifer Petit, and their younger daughter, Michaela, had gone swimming. So they were part of a country club and they had gone swimming and just enjoyed the pools. It was a hot summer day. Bill was a respected doctor, an endocrinologist, the kind of man everyone trusted. He was soft spoken, intelligent, and deeply devoted to his family. Jennifer was a nurse and a teacher. She taught nursing. She worked part time at a private boarding school where she helped young students with health and wellness.
They're like the dream team.
They're incredible,
Yeah.
honestly. She had this like calm, nurturing energy, and she was the kind of woman whose presence alone made people feel safe. And I love these women. We know a few of these, and God bless you all. They had 2 daughters, Haley and Michaela. Haley was 17, bright, athletic, and kind hearted. She had just graduated from Miss Porter's school.
My God,
I
doesn't that
know.
sound like one of those schools where they taught you how to sit like a lady?
It is literally a prestigious all girls prep school in Connecticut. And I was like, I would have liked to have gone to Miss Porter's school.
Would you have though?
I think so.
I don't think so because the biggest part of my high school experience was the boys.
It was, I mean, I would have rebelled hard, but I still would have
Listen,
enjoyed it.
I went to a Catholic school
Hmm.
and what they say about the Catholic girls is not.
You're like, it's very accurate. So she had just graduated and she was accepted to Dartmouth, which is incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was passionate about medicine, just like her dad, and volunteered for multiple charities. Now, Michaela, this girl, she was 11 and she loved cooking with her mom, which I'm like, I would do anything to have my kids cook anything, but here we are. She enjoyed gardening and she had a pet hamster that she was obsessed with.
I had a pet hamster.
I lost
I lost mine too.
I was house sitting. They were like, "Can you take care of the dog and the hamster?" And literally 3 hours in, the hamster was gone. And the hamster was gone. They were gone for 7 days, and he was gone for 4.
You found him though?
Yeah, eventually. He was
God.
in her dresser drawer. Anyway, it was a disaster, and I was terrified,
Fucking
but there
rude.
we are. Yeah. Now get this. Michaela had just organized a small charity bake sale that raised money for MS because her mom suffered from the disease. Like,
What
how
a
cute are
darling.
you?
I
I
know.
know. They were, by all accounts, this beautiful, loving, close knit family. But that same night, in another part of Connecticut, 2 men were also planning their evening. Their names were Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjevsky. Both men are career criminals. Hayes was 44, a man who had spent much of his life in and out of prison for burglary, theft, and drug-related crimes. He was gruff, impulsive, and resentful of the world. And Stephen Hayes looks exactly how you're picturing. He looks like a criminal.
Hmm.
Komisarjevsky was younger. He was 26, but far more dangerous in a different way. Adopted as a child, he had grown up in a strict religious household. which we know is not always the best thing. He later claimed that he had been physically and sexually abused.
You
He had a
know,
history.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but this just fucking pisses me off. And I'm going to say something that I'm probably going to get a little bit of, you know, pushback on, but it's always the strict religious household that you hear these fucking events coming out of.
It
I
is
don't
often.
understand. I don't understand.
I know.
Anyways, I'm pissed off. Continue.
I know. I know. He had a history of breaking into homes while people slept, sneaking in through windows, and taking photos of his victims while they slept, which to me is just a whole nother layer of insanity.
Gross.
Don't be gross.
Right?
What purpose does that serve?
I think that would come into like, because when someone's asleep, they're almost dead.
Well, they're vulnerable.
And like, if you're taking photos of someone unconscious, that has to be some kind of teetering on
I know.
necrophiliasm.
It's
That's
weird.
my opinion.
It's
Anyways,
very weird. The two men had met at a halfway house in Hartford after being released from prison. And that's where the plan began. And I looked a little bit into these halfway houses because there's been a few cases where we've come across halfway houses. And guys, I don't know if I'm for this.
you're essentially putting like-minded criminals, some that are in there for very violent crimes, in a space together where they have more freedom to learn how to be better criminals off of each other.
Yeah, like this is where these men met and connected.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Hayes and Komisarjevsky decided to commit a home invasion together. This was their plan, but they wanted an easy target. They wanted to make sure that it was A, a wealthy family, B, in a safe area, and basically a family that they knew weren't going to fight back. The night of July 22nd, 2007, Joshua spotted Jennifer and Michaela at a grocery store. Now, remember, Michaela loved to cook, and she had a recipe in mind that she wanted to make for them that night, but she needed additional ingredients. So off Mom and Michaela go to the grocery store. He watched as they shopped, listened in on their conversations, and followed them back to their car, keeping a distance so they wouldn't see, and tailed them back to their home.
This just, reinforces the fact that, like, please be more aware of your surroundings. If someone's lurking, take note
Yeah.
of them.
And I would even go so far, and I love you, but you're bad for this. I would even go so far when we're in public, even our conversations amongst ourselves shouldn't be super personal because who's listening? And I think of even myself, it was not that long ago where I was with my daughter and we had been talking, we're doing major renovations and we had been talking about something and I was in Walmart and I mentioned, oh yeah, the bank. And then afterwards I was like, let's not do that. Like we don't want anyone picking up any conversation about our personal life, what we have going on, even something as simple as, oh, yeah, we're undergoing renovations. That may give someone who's listening in an in. And they may think, like, their house is going to be torn apart. Maybe the doors won't be locked. Maybe they'll have a key hidden somewhere for the contractor. And it sucks that that's what we have to think about. But sometimes that's what we have to think about. He called Hayes shortly after he scopes out their house and sees, and it's a big, beautiful home. Like the thing is, the Petit family was well off. Dad is a doctor, mom's a nurse and a teacher. Like they're doing well. He calls Hayes and he says, I found the perfect place. It's big, beautiful. It's full of nice things. The plan was simple. Break in at night, tie everyone up, steal money, and leave. No one would get hurt. In and out. But when you put two unstable, violent men in a house, those kinds of promises rarely hold. There's a text exchange that was brought during court that gave me goosebumps between Stephen and Joshua just before they go to the house. Stephen says, "Are you ready?" And Joshua says, "Yeah, I'm just putting the kid down. Give me a second." And later, when you find out what these two monsters did, the fact that he put his baby down to bed before he went out and did all this is sickening. It's now 3 a.m.
May I ask a question? So he had a child.
Mhm.
Was he in prison just for robbery, theft type of thing, or was there violent crimes involved?
So for Joshua, he was a little bit more violent, but it was still just theft. It was so, he would become violent during the theft more so than Steven, but it was still just theft.
Okay.
It's 3 a.m. and the Pettit family is fast asleep. Bill was sleeping on the couch in the sunroom, something he often did in the summer because he liked the cross breeze from the porch. Upstairs, Jennifer and the girls were in their bed. In the darkness, Stephen quietly opened the unlocked basement door and crept down the stairs. So, this house is an older style home, and a lot of places in the United States have storm doors for shelter from like tornadoes and stuff. That's the type, and it goes to the outside so that if you're outside, you open the doors, you can get into the basement through that. So picture two doors swinging open. There's a set of stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, there's a door that leads into your basement. He gets in there and he finds a baseball bat leaning against the wall. He approached Dr. Pettit as he slept and struck him twice in the head with the bat. The blows were so hard that they fractured his skull immediately.
Oh, no.
Dazed and bleeding, Bill woke up to find himself being tied with rope and zip ties to a support pole in the basement.
This poor man. Imagine the thoughts going through his mind knowing his girls are upstairs.
I can't. And even more terrifying, he recalls he could hear his wife and daughters getting up because they heard the commotion. So now they're getting up. He can hear footsteps upstairs and he's panicking because he's like, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. I'm tied up. Hayes and Komisarjevsky moved methodically through the house. They found Jennifer and the girls, forced them back into their beds, and tied them up. They put pillowcases over each of their heads and they ransacked the house. They looked for cash, valuables, but they found almost nothing.
So this pissed them off.
Correct. And that's when they made a new plan because they discovered a bank book in the kitchen showing how much money was in Jennifer's account. They decided in the morning when the bank opens, she's going to drive to the bank, withdraw the cash. We're going to take the cash and we'll get out. At dawn, Hayes and Jennifer left in the family's SUV and drove to a local Bank of America branch. Jennifer looked composed on the surface, but the surveillance footage from that morning shows the truth. And this broke me watching this video, the surveillance video, because her hands are shaking. She tells the teller, I need to withdraw $15,000. She also quietly told them my family is being held hostage. Now, she did say, they seem nice. I figure I'm going to give them this money and they're going to leave. The teller nodded, handed her the cash, and as Jennifer was still in the bank, she called the police. Now, this is where things get frustrating. So take a swig of coffee because you're going to be real mad.
I will.
The police immediately set up a perimeter around the Pettit home. There were officers hidden outside who watched Hayes and Jennifer return from the bank and go into the house. Later, officers explained that the situation was being treated as a hostage situation and that they were following the protocol set out by the department, which I understand.
Okay.
I get it. For now, they were watching and waiting, preparing to make contact with Stephen and Joshua. So we have to remember in a situation like this, because we're about to be real mad, they were just following protocol.
Of course.
And protocol is important. While Hayes and Jennifer were at the bank, Joshua stayed behind with Bill and the girls. He later admitted that he spent part of that time talking to Michaela, that she reminded him of his own daughter. But what he did next was unspeakable because he raped the 11-year-old girl.
This child reminded you of your own daughter, and then you were like,
Mhm.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
The fuck?
And not only did he rape her, he took photos of the rape using his cell phone. And when Jennifer and Hayes returned home, he showed those photos to Hayes as if some sort of twisted joke. It's believed that Jennifer realized what had happened to her daughter and she became hysterical, yelling at Hayes, begging him to take the money and leave. Just like, please, here's $15,000. Walk out the door. You never have to think about this again. Please just leave. But Stephen claimed that Joshua started taunting him, calling him a coward, saying, you wouldn't even know how to handle a woman. And that triggered something violent in Stephen. Side note, the police are outside this house in their cars. Stephen dragged Jennifer into the living room and raped her. And then, in a fit of rage, he strangled her to death. The police are outside the house.
And that poor husband and those kids are listening to this happen. That 11-year-old baby has just been fucking brutally assaulted.
While the police are outside their door.
All the while.
Meanwhile, Dr. Petit, bleeding and half conscious, managed to free himself. He crawled up the basement stairs through the yard and into a neighbor's home, screaming for help. And it was, from what because I was like, how did the police not see him? But from what I understand, it was through the backyard and the side yard, so they didn't have eyes on that. The neighbor said when they came out of the house and saw him there, they didn't recognize him because he was so badly beaten. And they called 911 because nobody knew the police were sitting out front.
That I am feeling a certain type of way right now.
I know.
I'm feeling fucking rage.
It gets worse. Shockingly, it gets much worse. Through the night, Joshua had taken a break. So from the time they broke into the house to the time that Stephen left with Jennifer to go to the bank, Joshua had run to a gas station and he had filled up 4 containers of gas and brought it back to the house. As the neighbors are waiting for 911 to respond to them finding Bill on their back step, bloodied and beaten, Stephen and Joshua doused the home in gasoline, pouring it over the furniture, the walls, and the girls. They lit a match and the house erupted into flames. And this breaks my heart. Haley, the 17-year-old, managed to break free from her bindings. She ran for the stairs, but collapsed as smoke and fire filled the hallway. Michaela never made it out of her room. Both girls died of smoke inhalation. And I remind you, the police are sitting outside the house.
Fuck. Okay, I understand protocol. However,
Yes.
you are aware that there are 2 fucking men inside a house where there are children and you're just waiting to make contact? What do you think is going on in there?
I know. And I'm not one for playing the what if game, but truly, what if they had, I don't know, gotten out of the car and gotten Stephen and Jennifer when they got back from the bank? What if they made it in the house, but the police swarmed the house in that moment? So from the time, I just want this to be super clear. Jennifer and Stephen get home from the bank, and in a matter of minutes, this wasn't hours. We're talking 30, 40 minutes. As the police are sitting outside, Jennifer is raped, murdered, and they light the house on fire and the 2 girls die. There are a lot of cases that shock me. This shook me.
This is, yeah. I'm almost, I don't even, yeah.
I know. I am not one. Listen, I respect our police forces significantly. I don't even pretend to know what their jobs entail because I cannot imagine the things that they go through day in and day out and the training that they have to go through. And I also understand protocol is protocol, and they were just doing their jobs. What this case makes me question is At what point does common sense override protocol? Because
Mhm.
here's the thing, had an officer or had even the chief of police made the decision to say, fuck protocol, we're going up there, there is not one person in this community or in the country that would have been mad that they broke protocol.
No. No.
Not one.
Especially because when you think about it, okay, they got the money. Why did they go back in the house?
This is the thing. Like it was so, and Jennifer begged them once she realized that they had raped her 11-year-old daughter. She begged them, like, please. But everything went south when Joshua started taunting because he had just raped an 11-year-old girl. And he had just shown him the photos and he was like, you wouldn't even know what to do with a woman. And Stephen's ego got bruised and it all went to shit because a man's ego was bruised.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what followed was one of the most disturbing criminal cases in Connecticut history. Investigators found overwhelming evidence: gasoline canisters, ropes, zip ties, the photos on Joshua's phone, Jennifer's bank withdrawal slip. Dr. Pettit was the only survivor.
I hope to fucking God he never saw those photos.
I know. I don't know if he did. He suffered severe head wounds, burns, and trauma, but the loss was beyond physical. In the days after the fire, when reporters swarmed the hospital lawn, he said only one thing through tears: they're gone. They're all gone. The trial took years to unfold, as we see.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2010, and Stephen Hayes was found guilty on 16 of 17 charges, including capital felony murder, sexual assault, and arson. He was sentenced to death. A year later, in 2011, Joshua Komisarjevsky was convicted of all 17 charges and also sentenced to death. But the state of Connecticut would later abolish the death penalty, meaning both men's sentences were commuted to life without parole. Even so, the brutality of what they did remains unmatched. Prosecutors describe the crime as a home invasion turned living hell, which I can't imagine.
Mm-mm.
This story rocked me to my core because the police were outside. They were right there. And I can't imagine and you know what? We think about Michaela and Haley and Jennifer's last moments and how horrifying that would have been. But I also do feel for the police officers that were just doing their jobs, because how do you go on?
I was about to say that. Imagine, knowing what you were there to do and protocol blinded you in a sense that you had to sit there and wait, knowing what was going on in that house. Like my heart goes out to them because they have to live with the fact that they could have stopped it, but they didn't, essentially.
Yeah.
I do think that, and this probably is not going to sit well with some people, but I truly, part of me, the angry part of me, wishes, you know what? However you took a life, that is how you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Death penalty, I think in some cases it's warranted. In this case, those monsters don't deserve to breathe. They don't deserve to eat. They don't deserve to live.
And I do agree with you. However, when Stephen was given the death sentence, he was thrilled.
Okay.
He was like, perfect.
You
I
know
don't have to
why?
suffer. Yeah,
Because,
you know what's worse? Sitting in a prison cell,
no,
suffering for the rest of your life.
That's not what's worse.
She's like, incorrect.
What's worse is if you go to prison and you have done a crime against a child or a woman.
Yep. You're not treated very nicely. No. So it's actually worked out for the best in this, as best as this can be.
Yeah.
Because Stephen wanted to die. He didn't want to spend his life in prison. And now he has to, because fuck you. And I also hope that the girls haunt him in every day of his life.
Hope that they don't. I would hope that they're off exploring.
I know. I
You
hope that they're
know?
having a wonderful afterlife. To end this episode on a high note, good of a note as we can,
I'm like, give me something good, fuck.
Dr. Bill Pettit is incredible. Although he lost his wife, his daughters, and his home, he did remarry, and he actually ended up having a son, and that brought him a small glimmer of hope into a life once completely consumed by tragedy.
Oh.
Although in interviews, he still describes nights where the memories creep back in. He said he'll wake up and he can hear the girls laughing,
Oh,
which breaks me.
that breaks me too.
He also created the Pettit Family Foundation, dedicated to supporting education for young women, aid for victims of violence, and efforts to end chronic illness. So it was like a 3-for-1. Like he just went hard.
What a beautiful man.
I know. Actually, the community of Cheshire also rallied together, creating an annual event called Cheshire Lights of Hope. And each year, thousands of candles are lit across the town to honor for Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela, which I thought was lovely.
That's lovely.
So
So you
that's today's case.
really brought it, this morning?
When I was looking for a case to do today, I had come across a couple and written a couple and nothing was hitting. What makes this case what makes it hit is the police were just outside.
Yeah.
And that all of it. And again, this is not, I really didn't want to come on here and make it a blame game of like, well, the police should have done their job. They were actually doing their jobs. This was just one of those unfortunate situations.
Yeah.
And I do think for whatever you at home listening, whatever anger you're feeling, the people that were there that had to live, the police officers that had to live through that and then live with the aftermath, they've already suffered. I promise you, they've already suffered. So there's no use in us coming on here and attacking the police force.
No.
It was just a really unfortunate situation all across the board.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for telling us that story, because I do think that, these victims need a voice and to be remembered. And you did a beautiful job.
well, thank you. Thank you all for listening. We are super excited about our anniversary special. Guys, Triggered is 1 on Halloween.
We're 1 now.
1 now. We do have a special anniversary episode coming out that day. Also, if you are just sitting at home handing out candy on Halloween night, Ash and I are going live in our spooky costumes. So join us as we hand out candy.
We'll be live on TikTok.
Yes, live on TikTok. So if you don't follow us on TikTok, today's the day.
And then I want you to, so Chantel decided what our costume was going to be this year. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And then I figured it out and I'm really excited. But now I want to know if they'll know.
If you don't currently follow us on social media, pop in there. We want to hear your guesses of what we're going to be for Halloween, what our costume is. We have a group costume because we couldn't leave the boys out.
We always try and include them in our nonsense. I don't think they like it, but we just make them do it anyways.
They like it. Of course they like it. All this being said, thank you so much for listening, and we will see everyone on Friday.
Bye.
Bye.